Good afternoon. I'm Daniel Guest, and welcome to the Imagine Golf Podcast, brought to you by Imagine Golf and PXG. You can go to our site, imaginegolf.com, to see all of our offerings, including our free drills, our practice plans, our golf ebooks and videos that are pretty popular, or to book a lesson with me at our state-of-the-art studio right outside of Philadelphia, or virtually anywhere in the world through our partner, golfliveapp.com. And you can sign up for our free tips and videos that go out every week, once a week, by simply dropping us your email. Look, great topic today, in my opinion, anyway, for the podcast. It's simply my time spent with Hank Haney, the infamous Hank Haney. And if you know golf, you've heard Hank Haney's name. If nothing less, you know him as Tiger's coach of over 6+ years, and arguably the best 6 years that Tiger ever had in his career was underneath the tutelage of Hank Haney. So, but he's way more than that, man. He's got an illustrious career unto itself, man. So, what I thought we do today is, look, I met with him really for two reasons. One, I'm going to be working on my own game this winter, so I wanted an assessment and a plan, if you would, from one of the industry's best, if not the industry's best. And I wanted to see exactly how he does what he does, right? I wanted to see from an instruction standpoint how he does what he does, so that I can emulate some of that. I've always considered him as kind of a mentor, if you would, even though he's never really taught me per se, right? So personally, I should say, I've known Hank for 10+ years now. Our paths crossed at different industry events. We have some similar or some like friends, if you would. So I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, Hank. And basically, here's the premise. I'm going to tell you how the lesson went. I'm going to tell you what I learned, and then I'm going to wrap it all up, if you would, right? So I reached out to him, and I said, look, hey, I haven't worked on my game in 10+ years, and I actually joked with him. I'm like, I was either going to go to Golf Tech or you, and he started cracking up. But seriously, I didn't want to. I don't want to self-assess my own game, right? I think I know what I'm doing wrong and what I'm doing right, and what I'm good at and what I'm not good at it. And but I wanted to hear from a peer, right? And to put my name in peer with Hank Haney, that's a stretch, but you get the idea, right? Golf instructor to golf instructor. So I reached out, booked a slot with him a while ago, and fast forward, that appointment was yesterday. So I had an opportunity to go to Chicago, right? I flew to Chicago and met him at a facility called the Golf Practice. And a little plug for the Golf Practice. Incredible spot, man. It's right in Highland Park, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. It's 13,000 square feet of indoor golf. I met Chris and Peter, the owners there, and Chris was more than accommodating. And got a chance to sit down with him for a little bit, talk everything golf. They've been there for 13 years, which is an eternity in the golf space. They have 9 or 10 TrackMan bays. They have 9 instructors that work out of there. They have an indoor chipping area that you can hit out of a real bunker. They have an indoor putting area. They have a well putt facility. I could go on. Tour spec facility in there. I could go on and on about how cool the facility is. But Chris was gracious enough to let us do the lesson there. So I got there a little early, started warming up, and I'm happy to say that my game, my real swing, if you would, showed up, right? There's nothing worse than, going to a lesson and everything that you normally do incorrect or do wrong or do consistently, all of a sudden is not showing up, right? and you're crushing the ball. So I wasn't doing that. And man, I got to tell you, I was nervous, man. But I'm hitting decent balls, right? They're not great shots, but they're decent shots. They're my regular shots, right? So in strolls Hank, and we have some small talk. We have some hockey talk. Hank's a big hockey guy, so we did just that. And after about 10 minutes, he's like asking me some questions now about my game, if you would, what I'm trying to accomplish. And I just shared with him. I said, look, golf has relatively always come easy for me, right? And I think that stems from my career. I spent 25+ years. I still play today, ice hockey, if you would. So, and the sports are closely aligned. So, I from day one, it came relatively easy. And I only had 2 coaches in my entire career. I share with them. He knew the one guy down in Boca Raton, and then I had another guy here when I lived in Florida. In Boca Raton. Then I had another guy here in Trenton. Those are really the only 2 coaches that I ever took serious instruction from. And by serious, meaning that I went to them on a regular basis and highly respected their thoughts and their philosophy around golf. And they did well by me, right? So a little bit about me in my heyday, I was a 2 handicap. I was in my mid to late 30s though. And actually, I was probably even less than that now I think about it. I joined a country club down there in Florida, and I was playing 3, 4, 5 times a week, man. So it was a lot of fun. Golf is really, really fun when you get good at it. So I had the time of my life playing the sport. Then I got married, right? Had kids, life gets in the way, and you know the rest, right? So there was a period there where I barely played, right? Probably for like 7, maybe even a decade, barely played. And I certainly didn't go to the driving range, right? And then fast forward that, I get older, right? I've had a series of some, I don't want to say super serious injuries, but serious injuries, right? A torn rotator cuff's a serious injury. If you got to get knee surgery or any surgery for that matter, it's a serious injury. I'm 58 years old, right? Got a little bit of extra pounds on me, right? And I got some arthritis in my back that the doctor generously, told me, right? I'm like, hey, thanks, man. So you add all that up, and not working on your game for 10 plus years on top of all that, that's not a recipe for success, man. So, and my handicap is ballooned up to 9, right? Not 9, maybe even 10, right? So, and there's days where it's even worse than that. So I wanted to change that. So I shared all that with Hank, and he gets it, right? He totally gets it. At 68, he gets it. So we start hitting some balls, right? So I'm hitting balls. I'm hitting my my wedge, my 52-degree wedge. It's going about 105, 110 yards. Nice little draw to it. Everything's going well. And that's normally what I hit that club. And he's taking some videos, not saying a whole lot, and then has me hit a 7-iron, same thing, taking a few videos, which is kind of ironic because I know for a fact, because by his own admission, in this whole entire time he coached Tiger 6+ years, he mentions he only videoed Tiger like 3 times, right? So, but he's taking videos of me, and then my 7-iron is doing what it normally does. It's going about 145 yards. It's going relatively straight, but every once in a while it's tailing away to the right, a little bit of a fade. And it's really never turning over. I'm not drawing the 7-iron, and that's exactly what happens to me on the course, right? At the best case scenario, my balls go straight. The worst case, they start to fade on me. And then every once in a while, I'll throw in that slice, if you would. So, and as the clubs get bigger, especially as I get to the driver, I rarely turn the driver over anymore, and it drives me crazy, right? I'll see my ball mark, and it'll be at like 220, 230, whatever, max. And my ball mark will be on the right side, if you would, of where on the left side of where the ball is. And the ball will be, 3 feet to the right of that, right? So absolutely no rollout whatsoever. So anyway, so we do that for, 15, 20 minutes. And then Hank, just a little bit more information on Hank, man. He's definitely straight to the point, man, which I like and respect, right? So I said, what do you think? He's like, look, Daniel, my true assessment of your golf swing is there's not much of it, unquote, right? So I start cracking up, man. And I knew what he meant by that, right? The golf swing itself, my current swing itself really doesn't have much of a backswing to it. I'm not rotating like I used to. And hence I'm not hitting the ball nearly as far as I used to. And it's certainly just not the swing that I like to see when I look at it on video. So I said, all right, perfect, man. So what are we going to do about it, right? And so that's when the Hank Haney piece started to kick in, if you would. So he comes over and he's like, look, he's very hands-on, man. He comes over and he actually shows me the video, if you would, and explains to me what he'd like to see, right? He talked to me about my waggle, how the club that I'm, the same waggle that I had for probably 40 years, man, right? But it may not be the same, right? I think it's the same. I didn't video myself when I'm 14 though, but, or I didn't video myself too much when I was playing my best golf. So, it feels the same, but I may be doing it completely different. But it's like, Daniel, that waggle starts what everything that you do, right? Starts everything you do. And, it and your practice swing and everything. And if it's coming way too low and way too on the inside, you're setting yourself up for failure. And I know that to be true because that's exactly what we say at Imagine Golf, if you would. So we talked about stop doing that waggle and get that club a little bit higher, not low and slow, but higher and more vertical. And then we talked about the swing. It's like, look, man, you've got to get your hands higher. You've got to turn your back more towards the target, and you got to get through the golf ball and get your weight off of your rear foot, if you would, get on those toes. And again, there's no magic to that sauce, if you would, or that recipe, right? I knew all of that, right? But hearing it from him validated it, and then more importantly, how he showed me to go about it is completely different than what I would have done, if you would. So he immediately started moving the club for me, right? Getting on the side of me, in the front of me, moving the club. Getting on the left side of me, moving the club, right? Constantly asking me to relax, right? My tension was very, very high, if you would, right? I don't hold the club. I don't have a death grip on the club, but there was definitely a real methodical kind of tension imparted in my golf swing, right? And that probably has accumulated over time, to be honest. But he wanted a much more freer swing. And so we started working on that. And then he actually walked the club around me, if you would, and bent me in my backswing, if you would, in a proper position and having my club come down my back, quote unquote, right? So in the follow through, if you would. He wanted me to swing more from the inside, of course, right? We could all swing more from the inside, right? And he wanted me to get my bottom. He said my grip was okay, not good, but okay. My top hand was perfect, he said, but my bottom hand, based on what he was seeing, he's like, look, you got to get that hand a little stronger underneath the club a little bit more. So I started doing that, and he wanted it even stronger. So we did all that, and man, he had me take about probably, I'm not exaggerating. First of all, he moved me about 25 times in the swing, right? He's actually moving the club like 25 times, right? And then he has me take about another 25, maybe 45 swings in total. I know I was starting to get a sweat on, right? That's how much I was swinging, right? And then what was funny about it, man, it was starting to feel different, right? And then he said, look, man, you got to swing faster, right? I was swinging the club at about 70 miles an hour, which is probably my norm with a 7-iron. And it's like, look, everything in golf today is proximity to the hole. You've got to hit the ball farther, right? Because you got to have shorter irons and shorter shots coming in if you want to score. You want to get back to a 2 and even scratch. You can't be hitting a 5-iron into the green, right? So, and again, he's right. He's absolutely right. Unfortunately, I was hitting a lot of 5-irons into greens, right? So he's like, look, swing as hard as you can. And I'm like, Hank, if I do that, I swear to you, I might even miss the ball, man. And he's like, look, I don't even care about that. He's very, very nonchalant, right? And makes you feel, at ease, if you would. Look, I just want you to swing as fast and as hard as you can. And I did. And I didn't miss the ball. And my swing speed was up around 85, I think it was. And it's like, okay, so let's dial that back a little bit. And just swing hard and fast now, right? And everything we did from that point forward, and we're about 45 minutes into 45 minutes into the lesson, I swung hard, man. And I was amazed, man. I was off balance, every other shot, if you would, but I wasn't shanking the ball like I thought I would. I wasn't losing control of the shot like I thought I would. Quite the contrary. I started hitting the ball way further. I mean, like 20 yards further, right? And the dispersion was, I don't know, maybe 3%, 4%. Better, not worse, better. All right. So think about that. I'm swinging harder and faster. I'm hitting it 2 clubs further, right? And I'm hitting it in a little tighter circles, right? I was just amazed, man. I looked down at the track, man, and I'm 10 miles per hour faster than what I normally swing. I'm swinging at between 80 and 81, 82 miles per hour every single swing. And that continued the entire next I was there with him for over 2.5 hours plus. And I probably took 100 plus shots, right? And the swing speed was definitely increased. And by the way, I had a instructor at the facility Asked if he could watch the whole lesson if he would. And of course, I said, sure, have at it, man. So he was amazed, man. He's like 10 miles an hour in one session. That's amazing. So we walked through that, and it just had me do it over and over and over again. And with little tips along the entire time, lots of encouragement. I thought it would actually be the opposite side. Normally, when someone is really straightforward, they point out the flaw over and over and over again. Not so with Hank. Very, very, very positive. Hey, did a great job there. Even when I made a mistake, he was like, yeah, I was going to correct that grip there, but I was going to let you go. Decided to let you go. That was not good, right? Hey, Daniel, you got that waggle again. Stop that. But very straight to the point and always in a positive tone, if you would. So, just a great experience. So in the end, after 2.5+ hours, my ball speed was up 10 miles per hour. My dispersion was about 5% tighter, and I was hitting the ball about 20 yards further on every club. So, he looks at me and he goes, hey man, this is what they call a miracle in the golf business, right? Golf instruction business. And, I knew what he meant, man, because it was just a drastic difference. And then we looked at some of the videos in the beginning of the session and towards the end of the session. And I got to tell you, man, they're not even close. They are not. And I'll put some up on my website. And actually, they're all over social media right now as well. So, but just a great experience. So that's the golf lesson. That's the student in me. Let me tell you what I got out of it as a golf instructor, right? Hank is straight to the point, positive, and all he cares about is making sure that the student understands that golf is what the ball does, right? That everything that you do with a golf club impacts and has an influence on what the golf ball does. And if you can understand that, then you could be a better golfer, right? So I don't want to say that's old school, because whatever is old school is new school eventually, right? But it's consistent over any time period in golf's history, right? You've got to understand what the golf ball does. So that immediately stood out to me. The other thing was the hands-on piece, right? He helps you feel a certain tendency or tactic or feeling that he's trying to impart on you, right? And the only way you can do that correctly is if he shows you firsthand how to do it, right? He rarely demonstrates anything like a golf shot. He didn't hit a single golf ball in 2.5+ hours, right? He rarely took a golf swing, right? Every once in a while. And lots of practice without the golf ball, right? It was funny, man. When my golf lesson was over, the lesson piece was over, I'm like, hey, Hank, everything we do at Imagine is drill based. Can you recommend a drill that I could do, right? That would, consistently impart everything we did here? And he looks at me and goes, Daniel, what do you think we've been doing for 2.5 hours, right? And again, I kind of knew it, right, before I even said it, right? But and he goes on to say, look, man, drills are fine. I have nothing against drills. He says, but the best drill you can do is a perfect swing. And that really resonated with me, right? Because we have that drill. We call it the perfect practice swing drill, right? But we certainly don't emphasize it like he does. He's like, look, if you can't do a perfect practice swing, right, there's no chance you can do a regular swing. And he's right. So, getting back to the basics, if you would, of how golf instruction really should be, if you would, without, look, I'm a big tech fan. I really am. But you can get lost in the technology. You can get lost in the small things, right, around instruction. Hank doesn't have that, right? He is all about golf is what the ball does, man. And how does he get you, the student, to do just that? So I think that was the biggest takeaway from me, is just really staying focused on just that, right? And that was really it, man. At the end, we spent more time, hockey talk, if you will. We made another appointment. I'm going to go see him at his studio out in Arizona next time. He showed me some videos of his kid. His 10-year-old kid is a phenomenal skater. I mean, it was unbelievable. And the kid's only been playing hockey for like 3 years, right? 3 years. And he plays AAA hockey, and he's just you can just tell, anybody that knows hockey, when you watch someone skate, if they're good or bad or whatever. So anyway, so that's my time spent with Hank Haney. One thing I think I mentioned, but I didn't talk all the way through it. He's texting a few mutual friends of ours, my swing, right? And in those texts, the comments coming back were like, "Hey man, this looks like it's going to be harder than Barkley. Hey man, this guy's an instructor." It was the golf circles, pull no punches, and so it was kind of funny, man, seeing those firsthand, and he shared those with me. So in the end, man, I want to thank Hank Haney and Haney University for even giving me the opportunity. I certainly want to thank Chris and his team over at the golf practice, because without that, I couldn't have done it in Chicago anyway. So just a great experience. So there's my time spent with Hank Haney. That's my time on the podcast today. Thanks for listening. Hit the follow button wherever you're listening, wherever you get your podcasts. Hit us up on social media. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate all the people that follow us. We're up to almost 400,000 people that have been following us across the different social media platforms. So that's humbling as well. And just know that I really enjoy working with all of you. So here's to helping you get the game that you've always imagined.